The world of sports is rumored and reputed to be making huge amounts of money these days. As UFC fighters join this wealthy money train and climb onto the Forbes list, we all wonder how much they really make. The industry has recently grown to become a multi-billion-dollar enterprise with lucrative financial outputs for its fighters. If you're curious which of your favorite UFC fighters make the most money, then you should definitely watch this video to the end. But before we begin, don't forget to overhand right that subscribe button and teep kick the notification bell so you don't miss out on our amazing videos. BJ Penn. As the former UFC welterweight champion and lightweight champion known as the Prodigy, BJ Penn falls into the category of elite UFC fighters with titles and the money. In UFC 101, Paul hauled the sum of over $300,000 for his swift and surprise win over Kenny Florian, which was quite a solid win for him at that time. Climbing steadily towards the World Hall of Fame, BJ Penn has also generated $380,000 in his winning fight against Matt Hughes in UFC 123. It was reported that the win was a major haul to fame and an increase in his earnings for him. The Hawaiian fighter, well deserving, made it to the top 5 in Fighters Only magazine's 100 greatest fighters in history. He was also one of the first non-Brazilians to win a black belt category in Jiu-Jitsu championships, making him one of the most accomplished fighters in the history of the UFC. He is credited by UFC President Dana White as the one who brought the lower weight divisions into the mainstream. One of his greatest achievements is staying undefeated for 8 years, which is a record-breaking feat for the lightweight title. BJ Penn's autobiography reached number 22nd on New York's bestseller list. He has earned roles in popular movies and popular TV series like 5-0, which obviously boosts his net worth. BJ Penn has also coached for the TV reality show The Ultimate Fighter. As of 2021, his net worth is estimated to be the sum of $22 million, which made him one of the most deserving and richest UFC fighters on the list. Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar is another big name in the sports industry. He has made marks in WWE and became more popular in the UFC. Brock Lesnar is one of the most physically prominent combat artists and highly decorated wrestlers in UFC history. He has also generated one of the highest selling pay-per-views in UFC history, which is an incredible feat that increases fame and earnings as expected. The world knows him as the Beast Incarnate, and the reason isn't far-fetched. It's due to his intimidating presence, which also serves as an edge over his opponents. In his early career with the UFC, Brock Lesnar was paid the sum of $750,000 against a non-champion fighter. His recent tweet showed that most of his earnings were generated through his standalone fights. As of 2021, Brock Lesnar is reported as the only fighter to simultaneously hold 2 of the greatest sports titles, the UFC Championship title and the WWE World Championship belt. In his fight against Mark Hunt in UFC 200, Brock Lesnar is reported to have earned $2.5 million. Brock Lesnar lives an extravagant life and has a plethora of expensive classic cars. Currently, his net worth is valued at $28 million, granting him a solid seat on the list of UFC fighters that make the most money. George St Pierre. Moving through our ranking is George St Pierre, GSP, who is another UFC fighter and champion who made a lot of money towards the end of his career. The Canadian has successfully won a couple of titles in the UFC, including the UFC Welterweight Championship and the UFC Middleweight Championship during his active years. Just like his other counterparts, this champion made a lot of money during his career. An interesting report states that his per-fight income soars to a whopping 6 figures at times, branding him as a worthy fighter that deserves to be on the list. Popularly known as GSP, he's widely acknowledged as one of the most decorated combat artists in UFC history. He won the middleweight championship title, beating another popular combat artist, Michael Bisping, in UFC 217. UFC 158 generated 950,000 pay-per-views, which must have earned GSP the incredible sum of $2.85 million of pay-per-view bonuses alone. Back in 2013, George St Pierre was stated by President Dana White to have earned the amount of $5 million that night alone. His earnings through the incredible fight against big shots like Michael Bisping in UFC 217 weren't made privy to the public, but his earnings from Inside Scoop states were at about $2.58 million, which boosts his net worth as we expected. GSP also received sponsorship and lucrative band endorsement deals, which boosted his net worth and increased his financial stance. He signed endorsement deals with brands like Under Armour, NOS, a Coca-Cola-owned energy drink, EA, Bacardi, Hayabusa, Electronic Arts, and several high-profile brands. George St Pierre is regarded as one of the most popular fighters in the UFC, and his earnings express this fame. George St Pierre has been reputed to have been victorious in 26 out of 28 fights. The fact is really astonishing. Recently, it's reported that at the peak of his flourishing career, before he retired, he earned between $12 to $15 million, which is an incredible amount. With the several brand endorsement deals he signed coupled with his earnings and pay-per-view bonuses, his net worth is currently estimated at $30 million. Khabib Nurmana get off. We know you're holding your breath to find out about the #1 UFC fighter who makes the most money, but you're close. Let's talk about our second richest UFC fighter ever, Khabib the Eagle Nurmana. He is the next UFC fighter who made a lot of money out of his earnings, bonuses, and pay-per-view events. Khabib is another UFC fighter whose fame and finances soared rapidly after his recent fight with Conor McGregor, earning him $11.5 million after the 4th round of the competition. Forbes ranks him as the #1 Russian athlete. Just like Conor McGregor, he is also a mixed martial artist who has competed in one of the highest-grossing pay-per-view events in UFC history. Known as the Eagle, he's reported to have generated in his career earnings a total of $14.77 million, most of which were accumulated from his fights against Conor McGregor, Dustin Poirier, and Justin Gaethje. Khabib broke the box office record when he had a reputable fight with Conor McGregor, which generated a massive pay-per-view purchase of $2.4 million. Although the amount he earned wasn't revealed to the public, it was reported that Khabib made about $6 million in extra bonus fees each from his 2 final reputable fights against Dustin Poirier and Justin Gaethje before he retired. Khabib has also been sponsored and endorsed by several lucrative brands such as Reebok, Toyota, and an energy drink brand from Russia named Gorilla Energy Drink, which increased his net worth to an incredible sum of $40 million. The notorious one, Conor McGregor. We saved the best, greatest, and richest fighter in all the UFC history for last. The UFC fighter who made the most money in recent times is the one and only, the notorious Conor McGregor. According to Forbes' list, Conor McGregor is currently the highest paid athlete of UFC. The notorious one, as he's famously called, is one of the best UFC fighters of all time. The Irish superstar is reported as the first UFC fighter and only combat sports athlete to make the list of highest paid athletes on Forbes, including other huge stars in the sports industry like Lionel Messi, Cristiano Ronaldo, Kevin Durant, etc. Conor is truly regarded as the king of bucks in UFC with total earnings of $115 million. In 2020, he made a whopping sum of $48 million alone generated from his earnings and winnings, which was $32 million. He also generated $16 million through brand endorsements with several brands like Reebok, Burger King, Beats by Dre, Monster, etc., which totals his income in 2020 to $48 million. Being the true money bag of UFC, Conor has his own brands and businesses, one of which is the widely preferred whiskey brand named Proper 12, which reportedly made about 1 billion sales in its first year. Another outstanding fact is that Conor recently sold his majority stake of his whiskey brand for this year for the incredible sum of $150 million. The business-oriented fighter also owns MacLife, a fashion brand named August McGregor, and a fitness brand called McGregor Fast. Money Fight, which was one of the highest-selling pay-per-view events, made about 4.5 million sales, which generated earnings of $100 million from its success. He also made $30 million for his fight against Donald Cerrone, which generated a pay-per-view that brought about 1.3 million buys. One of his celebrated money feats was the $130 million he earned through the boxing match with Floyd Mayweather, which he lost in 2017. According to Forbes, Conor McGregor is reported to have earned about a cumulative amount of $180 million last year, all thanks to selling his majority stake in the whiskey company for $150 million and his second-round TKO loss in January UFC 257 event to Dustin Poirier. Conor McGregor has built a solid foundation of money for himself while fighting, and he deserves no other spot but the top. Currently, he is worth $120 million, which crowns him as the UFC fighter who makes the most money through his earnings, endorsements, and businesses. His total career earnings at UFC is stated to be around $20 million. There you have it. 5 well-deserving, great fighters who are equally rich and made the most money in the UFC by doing what they love. I'm sure you're thrilled by the information, as we're thrilled to share it. There you guys go. If you enjoyed this video, show a little expression of your excitement by jabbing that thumbs up button and subscribing to our channel to receive and watch more interesting updates on combat sports.